Looking back, it's almost funny how perfect everything seemed. I was just 3 months away from my dream wedding in Cape Cod. Sarah Mitchell, my college sweetheart, was about to become Mrs. Anderson. We had it all planned out. The beachfront ceremony, the sunset photos, the intimate reception. At 28, I felt like I had everything figured out. My job at a Boston tech startup was going great, with a promotion on the horizon. Sarah was climbing the corporate ladder at her marketing firm. And then there was Noah, our 14-month-old miracle. He had my smile, or so everyone said. Those big brown eyes and that infectious laugh could light up any room. Every morning when I'd walk into his nursery, he'd stand in his crib, bouncing with excitement. Dada, Dada, he'd squeal, reaching out his tiny arms. Those moments made everything worth it. Sure, Sarah and I had our rough patches. What couple doesn't? We were young when we met at Boston University. Fresh-faced sophomores who bumped into each other at a coffee shop near campus. She spilled her latte on my economics textbook. I asked her out to replace my book. She counteroffered with coffee. The rest, as they say, was history. When Noah came along, it wasn't exactly planned. We were both 26, still figuring out our careers. But the moment we saw that positive pregnancy test, everything changed. I proposed 2 months later, but we decided to wait on the wedding. We wanted to be more settled, both emotionally and financially. Looking back, maybe I should have seen the signs. The late nights at the office, the new clothes, the sudden interest in fitness classes. But love makes you blind, doesn't it? Or maybe I just didn't want to see. It was David who finally opened my eyes. David Thompson had been my best friend since third grade. The kind of friend who knows you better than you know yourself. We were in his backyard, grilling burgers on a Saturday afternoon. Noah was with Sarah's parents for the weekend. The Boston summer was in full swing, and everything felt perfect. Until it wasn't. Jake, David said, his voice unusually serious. He was holding his beer bottle, so tight his knuckles were white. There's something I need to tell you. I laughed, flipping a burger. You sound like you're about to confess to a crime, buddy. But David wasn't smiling. It's about Sarah. My heart skipped a beat. What about her? People at her office. They're talking. I put down the spatula. Talking about what? David wouldn't meet my eyes. There's this executive, Tom Reynolds. My stomach turned. Sarah's boss. They've been seen together. After hours. I forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow. They work together, David. Of course they're seen together. Jake, David's voice was gentle now. They've been seen together at the Liberty Hotel. Multiple times. The Liberty Hotel was nowhere near their office. But it was known FO. Art's discretion. And its expensive rooms. That's not all, David continued. What else could there be? My voice was barely a whisper. The timing with Noah, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. What about Noah? The rumors started before Sarah was pregnant. Stop. Jake, you need to hear this. I said stop. The burger on the grill was burning now. Black smoke rising into the perfect blue sky. But I couldn't move. Some people are saying, there's a chance Noah might not be yours. The world stopped spinning. Everything went quiet. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. You're wrong. I finally managed. God, I hope I am, David replied. But you're my best friend. You deserve to know. I left David's house in a daze. Drove around Boston for hours. Past the coffee shop where Sarah and I first met. Past our first apartment in Somerville. Past the hospital where Noah was born. My mind was racing, calculating dates, remembering moments, looking for signs I might have missed. When I finally got home, Sarah was waiting. Where have you been? She asked, looking concerned. I've been calling. I couldn't even look at her. Just driving. I mumbled. Are you okay? No, I wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Sarah slept peacefully beside me, her breathing steady and calm, while my world was falling apart. The next morning, I ordered a DNA test on Amazon. Prime delivery. 2 days later, it arrived in a plain brown box. I told Sarah I was working from home, waited until she left for the office. Then I went into Noah's room. He was napping, peaceful and perfect. I gently swabbed the inside of his cheek. Did the same to myself. Sealed the samples. Dropped them at FedEx. Express shipping. The wait was excruciating. 5 business days felt like 5 years. I went through the motions. Went to work. Came home. Played with Noah. Kissed Sarah goodnight. But inside, I was dying. The email came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in a meeting when my phone buzzed. Subject: your DNA test results are ready. I excused myself. Locked myself in a bathroom stall. Hands shaking, I opened the email. Based on the analysis of 16 genetic markers. Probability of paternity, 0%. The alleged father is excluded as the biological father. I threw up, right there in the corporate bathroom. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. My perfect life. My beautiful son. My loving fiancée. All built on lies. I called David. I need a place to stay. He didn't ask questions. Just said, come over. I left work without telling anyone. Drove to David's downtown apartment. Sat on his couch, numb. What are you going to do? He asked. I had no idea. How do you confront the person you love most in the world? How do you ask them why they destroyed everything? How do you look at the child you've loved since birth and accept that he's in? Otros? David ordered pizza. I couldn't eat. He offered beer. I couldn't drink. We sat in silence. The Boston skyline twinkling outside his window. My phone kept buzzing. Sarah calling. Sarah texting. Where are you? Are you okay? Please come home. I turned it off. Around midnight, David went to bed. I stayed on the couch, watching the city lights, thinking about Noah's first steps, his first words, his first birthday party, all the moments I thought were mine to cherish. Now tainted, forever changed. The sun was rising when I made my decision. I had to know everything, had to hear it from her, had to understand why. I turned my phone back on. 27 missed calls, 43 text messages, 1 voicemail from Sarah's mom. I ignored them all. Sent Sarah 1 text. We need to talk. I'm coming home. The drive back to our house felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life unfold. The morning traffic moved around me. People heading to work, living their normal lives, while mine was crumbling. Sarah was waiting on the front porch, still in her pajamas, hair messy, eyes red from crying. She jumped up when I pulled in. Jake, where have you been? I was so worried. I walked past her, into the house, into what used to be our perfect life. Noah was at daycare. Small mercies. I couldn't face him right now. Jake, you're scaring me, Sarah said, following me into the kitchen. I turned to face her, really looked at her. The woman I thought I knew. I know, I said quietly. Know what? But her face gave her away. The color drained from her cheeks. Her hands started trembling. I know about Tom. She stumbled backward, caught herself on the counter. Jake, I can explain. Explain what, Sarah? My voice was rising now. Explain how you've been sleeping with your boss. It's not. Or explain how Noah isn't my son. The words hung in the air between us. Heavy, devastating, final. Sarah's legs gave out. She slid to the floor, sobbing. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. But sorry wasn't enough. Sorry couldn't fix this. Sorry couldn't make Noah my son. Sorry couldn't erase the lies. How long? I asked. Jake, please. How long? She flinched at my shout. 6 months before I got pregnant. The timeline hit me like a truck. So, when we got engaged, yes. When we were planning the wedding, yes. All this time, she was crying harder now, mascara running down her face. I ended it when I found out I was pregnant. Does he know? She shook her head. I never told him. But you let me believe. You were so happy, she sobbed. We were so happy. Happy living a lie. I kicked a kitchen chair. It clattered across the floor. I loved you, I shouted. I still love you, she whispered. Love doesn't do this, Sarah. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't let someone raise another man's child. She are. Each for me. I stepped back. Don't. Jake, please. We can fix this. Fix this. I laughed bitterly. How do you propose we fix this? We can go to counseling. Noah loves you so much. Stop. You're the only father he's ever known. Stop. My shout echoed through the house, through the life we'd built, through the lies we'd lived. I'm calling a lawyer, I said. Her head snapped up. What? I'm getting my name off his birth certificate. Jake, no. And the wedding is off. Please don't do this. You did this, Sarah. Not me. I walked to the door. She scrambled after me. Where are you going? Away from here. When will you be back? I turned to look at her one last time. The woman I thought I'd spend forever with. I won't. I closed the door on her sobs. Closed the door on our life together. Closed the door on the perfect lie we'd been living. David was waiting in his car outside. He'd followed me home. Just in case. That's what best friends do. I got in his car. Neither of us spoke. He just drove. Away from the house. Away from Sarah. Away from the life I thought was mine. The Boston skyline disappeared in the rearview mirror, along with everything I thought I knew about love, about trust, about family. It was time to start over. But first, I had to pick up the pieces of my shattered life and figure out who I was without the lies that had defined me. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings and sleepless nights. Rachel Goldman's law office became my second home. She was exactly what I needed: sharp, ruthless, and completely unsentimental. The good news, she said during our first meeting, is that you're not married yet. And the bad news? Your name is on the birth certificate. Can we change that? She leaned back in her leather chair. We can, but it won't be easy. Sarah will fight it. Of course she will. Rachel started typing on her laptop. We'll need that DNA test redone. Official channels this time. I nodded, already dreading it. The corporate world was surprisingly understanding. I took a leave of absence from work. My boss had been through a divorce himself. Take all the time you need, he said. If only he knew this was worse than divorce. David let me crash at his place indefinitely. His spare room became my sanctuary, a place to hide from the world, from the whispers, from the pitying looks, from the constant stream of messages from Sarah. Her texts ranged from desperate to angry. Please come home. We can work this out. Noah misses you. That last one always hit the hardest. I missed him too. Missed his morning smiles, his little hands reaching for me, his excited dada when I came home. But he wasn't mine. He never was. The official DNA test results came back. Exactly the same as the Amazon one. 0% probability of paternity. Rachel filed the paperwork immediately. Now comes the hard part, she warned. Finding Tom Reynolds wasn't difficult. He was all over Sarah's company website. Vice President of Marketing. Harvard MBA. Perfect smile. Perfect hair. Perfect life. Until Rachel's team served him with papers, demanding his own DNA test. That's when things got messy. Tom hired expensive lawyers, tried to block the test, claimed harassment. But Rachel was better. He's just delaying the inevitable, she assured me. She was right. The court ordered the test. Tom had no choice. Sarah's carefully constructed lies began unraveling. Their affair hadn't been just one time. It had been going on for months. Everyone at their office knew. Everyone except me. The office gossip finally reached the CEO. Tom was married. Had been for 15 years. His wife found out about everything. The affair. The child. The cover-up. The scandal rocked their company. Sarah was asked to resign. Tom was transferred to their Chicago office. His wife filed for divorce. It was all falling apart, but I felt no satisfaction, just emptiness. The court date for removing my name approached. Sarah's lawyers tried every delay tactic, claimed it was in Noah's best interest to maintain the status quo, argued about emotional bonds, psychological impact. But the DNA doesn't lie. Tom's test came back positive. 99.99% probability of paternity. The judge looked at all the evidence, the lies, the deception, the manipulation. He ruled in my favor. My name would be removed from Noah's birth certificate. Tom would be listed as the father. All legal ties severed. Sarah broke down in the courtroom. Her perfect plan destroyed. Her lies exposed. Her world crumbling. Just like mine had. The difference was she deserved it. I walked out of the courthouse feeling lighter, but also hollow. David was waiting outside. "It's done," I told him. He nodded, understanding everything I couldn't say. That night, we sat on his balcony, watching the city lights, drinking beer, trying to make sense of life. "What now?" he asked. I had no answer. Boston felt suffocating. Too many memories. Too much pain. Every street corner held a story. Every restaurant a date. Every park a family moment. I needed to escape. That's when the email came. From a Silicon Valley headhunter. A startup was looking for a head of product. They'd seen my work, were impressed by my background, wanted to meet. San Francisco, I mused. That's about as far as you can get. David smiled sadly. Maybe that's exactly what you need. The interview was via Zoom. The company was developing AI technology. Revolutionary stuff. They liked my experience, my ideas, my energy. They didn't care about my personal drama. The offer came the next day. Salary higher than I'd imagined. Equity package that could be life-changing. And most importantly, 3,000 miles from Boston. I accepted immediately. Sarah found out somehow. Showed up at David's apartment. No in her arms. "You can't move to California," she pleaded. "You can't leave him." I looked at Noah. His brown eyes. Tom's eyes. "He's not mine, Sarah. You need to accept that. He loves you. He'll forget me. Kids are resilient." She started crying. Noah reached for me. Muscle memory made me want to take him, hold him, comfort him. But I couldn't. It would only make things harder. "Goodbye, Sarah." I closed the door, leaned against it, listened to her footsteps fade away, taking Noah with her, taking my old life with her. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind, packing up my life, selling what I couldn't take, saying goodbyes. My parents were supportive. Mom wanted to kill Sarah. Dad just hugged me tight. "Sometimes," he said, "you need to burn it all down to build something better." David drove me to Logan Airport. We didn't talk much. What was there to say? At security, he hugged me. "Call me when you land." "I will." "And Jake?" "Yeah. Find yourself out there." I nodded, throat tight, walked through security. Didn't look back. The plane took off into the sunset. Boston disappeared beneath the clouds, along with my old life, my almost wife, my almost son, my almost perfect lie. Somewhere over Ohio, I ordered a whiskey, watched the darkness outside, thought about new beginnings, fresh starts, clean slates. The woman next to me was reading a book. "Starting over?" she asked, noticing my one-way ticket. I smiled slightly. "Something like that." She nodded knowingly. Sometimes that's the bravest thing we can do. Maybe she was right. Maybe running away wasn't cowardice. Maybe sometimes it was courage. To leave the familiar. To face the unknown. To rebuild from scratch. The pilot announced our descent into San Francisco. The city lights sparkled below, like stars fallen to earth, like possibilities waiting to be discovered, like hope. I took a deep breath. Ready or not, this was my new beginning. Time to write my own story. Without lies. Without pretense. Just truth. Raw and real. As we touched down, I felt something shift inside me. A weight lifting, a chain breaking, a page turning. San Francisco was waiting, and so was the rest of my life. San Francisco welcomed me with its famous fog. The city was nothing like Boston. Hills instead of brownstones. Cable cars instead of the T. Everything felt different. Foreign. New. Exactly what I needed. My company put me up at the W Hotel until I found my own place. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. The Golden Gate Bridge peeking through the mist. My first day at the startup was a blur. Modern office and Soma. Bean bags and ping-pong tables. Cold brew on tap. Everyone young. Hungry. Driven. No one knew my story. No one asked about my past. Here, I was just Jake, the new head of product. Not the guy whose fiancée lied ABO. UT his son. Not the victim of the perfect deception. Just Jake. I threw myself into work. 14-hour days. Weekend sprints. Late-night coding sessions. Anything to keep my mind occupied. To keep the memories at bay. David called regularly. Checking in. Keeping me updated. Sarah had moved in with her parents. Tom's divorce was getting ugly. The company was struggling with the scandal. I listened, but it felt distant now. Like someone else's story. My realtor found me a place in Pacific Heights. A modern one-bedroom with a view. More than I needed. Less than I could afford. Perfect for a fresh start. The city started feeling like home. I discovered local coffee shops. Found my favorite taco truck. Joined a gym in the marina. Started running along the Embarcadero. The fog became comforting. Like a blanket hiding me from the past. Then came the email. From Sarah. Subject. Noah's second birthday. My finger hovered over delete. But I couldn't. Inside was a photo. Noah in a party hat. Chocolate cake on his face. Smiling that smile I used to think was mine. I closed my laptop. Went for a run. Up and down the hills. Until my legs burned. Until I couldn't breathe. Until the pain in my chest was physical. Not emotional. My team noticed something was off. Drinks tonight? Lisa, our lead developer, suggested. I almost said no. Almost retreated to my apartment. But something made me say yes. We ended up at a rooftop bar in Hayes Valley. The team was fun. Normal. No drama. No baggage. Just people enjoying life. Lisa sat next to me. You know, she said, you never talk about Boston. I sipped my beer. Not much to talk about. She didn't push. Just nodded. Changed the subject. But something shifted that night. I started saying yes more often. Team dinners. Weekend hikes. Warriors games. Living instead of existing. Lisa and I started grabbing coffee together. Nothing serious. Just friends. But it felt good to talk. To laugh. To be normal again. She was easy to be around. Smart. Funny. No expectations. One Sunday, we hiked the Land's End Trail. The fog had lifted. The ocean stretched endlessly. Want to talk about it? She asked. About what? Whatever brought you here. I looked at the waves crashing below. And for the first time, I told someone the whole story. She listened without judgment. Without pity. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. You're stronger than you think, she finally said. I wasn't sure about that, but maybe I was getting there. Months passed. Seasons changed. The startup was taking off. Our product was gaining traction. Investors were excited. I was building something real, something true. Then came another email. From Rachel, my lawyer. Tom was trying to reduce his child support, claiming financial hardship. Sarah was fighting it. Did I want to be kept in the loop? I replied with one word. No. It wasn't my SD. Ori anymore. I had my own to write. Lisa and I started dating. Slowly. Carefully. Both carrying our own scars. Her from a cheating ex-husband. Me from my perfect lie. But maybe that's what made it work. We understood broken trust. Knew the value of honesty. 1 year after I landed in San Francisco, David came to visit. We walked across the Golden Gate Bridge. You seem different, he said. Good different. He smiled. Happy different. Maybe he was right. The pain wasn't gone. Probably never would be. But it had changed, transformed, from a raw wound to a scar that told a story. Lisa moved in with me. Her books mixed with mine, her coffee mugs in my cabinet, her laugh filling my space. No lies, no secrets, just two people, building something real. Sometimes I still think about Noah. Wonder if he remembers me, if he asks about the man in the old photos. But those thoughts come less often now. Life moves forward, whether we're ready or not. Sarah remarried last month. David told me. A lawyer she met at church. Good for her. I hope she learned her lesson. About truth. About consequences. About the weight of lies. Tom pays his child support now. Sees Noah on weekends. Playing the father role I once thought was mine. But that's their story. Not mine anymore. Mine is here, in San Francisco. With Lisa. With our truth. With our future. The fog rolls in most evenings, wrapping the city in its mysterious embrace. But now I know. It always lives, revealing something beautiful, something real, something true. And that's worth everything. And